The rain-slick asphalt shimmered under the glare of the headlights when Zika heard it. That sound. In the rearview mirror, his blood froze. A bloodied Labrador, dragged by a rope, gasping, fighting to stay alive. The driver ahead, cold, detached, as if it were nothing. The dog's paws scraped against the pavement, its desperate whimpers echoing into the dead of night. Zika's hands trembled. He knew the animal wouldn't last another minute. What he didn't know was that this moment would change not only the dog's fate, but his own forever. The diesel engine's growl sliced through the silence of the BR-116. Zika shifted in his seat, feeling the weight of 20 years on the road pressing into his aching back. 3 a.m., a fine drizzle made the highway slick and treacherous. A few more hours and he'd be in Fortaleza with his load of medicine. Same routine as always. The radio crackled softly. Country music tangled with static. He yawned, thinking of the bed waiting for him at the end of the trip. Then came a different sound. Metallic, scraping. He frowned, turned the volume down. The noise persisted. A glance at the side mirror stopped his heart. A black Civic, speeding hard, with something tied to the rear bumper. A rope. And at the end of that rope? Jesus. A yellow Labrador was being dragged across the wet asphalt. Its hind legs clawed for traction but slipped helplessly on the soaked road. The dog lifted its head, straining for breath, eyes wide with terror and agony. Zika floored the accelerator, closing the gap. What he saw made his stomach churn. The Labrador's back and legs were raw, stripped to the flesh. Blood mingled with rainwater, leaving a crimson trail behind. The animal panted with its mouth open, tongue purple and lolling. With every yard more skin tore away. And the Civic's driver? Music blaring, window down, cigarette dangling, a bald man in his 40s, wearing the blank indifference of someone for whom cruelty was routine. Rage surged in Zika like molten steel. "Son of a bitch," he muttered, knuckles whitening on the wheel. The Labrador tried once more to rise, but its hind legs no longer obeyed. It turned its head toward Zika's truck, pleading. In those brown eyes, Zika saw it. Pure supplication. The dog knew it was dying, and it was begging for someone to save it. Zika pushed harder, pulled alongside the Civic, blared the horn, waved, shouted. The driver glanced over, irritated like swatting at a fly, then sped up. The Labrador let out a high, piercing cry that cut through Zika's chest like a blade. "No, no, you're not killing this animal in front of me, you bastard." The road ahead was empty, now or never. 2 decades behind the wheel had taught Zika exactly how to play this. He gunned the truck, overtook the Civic, and with surgical precision swung in front, forcing the car into a hard brake. The Civic skidded on the wet pavement, spun 180 degrees, and came to rest on the shoulder. The driver burst out, shouting, "You're crazy, man! Out of your mind!" Zika was already out of the cab before the truck had fully stopped. His 100 kilos moved like a storm toward the man, but his eyes went first to the Labrador. The dog lay on its side, breathing in ragged bursts, trembling. Its hind legs were nothing but raw flesh, blood pooling beneath it. And yet, when Zika knelt beside it, the impossible happened. The dog lifted its head and tried to wag its tail. "Easy, boy, easy," Zika whispered, voice breaking, hand extended. Even shattered by pain, the Labrador pressed its bloodied muzzle into his palm, a gesture of absolute trust that lit a fire in Zika's chest he hadn't felt in years. "Get away from my dog," the man barked, closing in. Zika rose slowly, muscles coiled. 20 years hauling heavy loads and dealing with every kind of lowlife had forged more than his body. It had forged his will. When he turned to face the man, his voice was low and dangerous. "Your dog? You're killing him, you son of a—" The bald man laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "A useless dog's gotta die. That mutt killed 2 of my mother-in-law's chickens." Zika's blood boiled. "So you drag him to death for that?" "My problem. My animal." "Not anymore," Zika said, stepping closer. "Now he's mine." The man laughed louder. "Yours? You stealing from me? I'm saving him. If you want to stop me, try." They stood under the drizzle, eyes locked. The man was smaller, but his gaze carried the chill of someone who'd done worse before. Zika could feel it. This guy's cruelty wasn't limited to animals. "You don't know who I am," the man said, voice turning dark. "I've got friends in the police. I can make up whatever I want." "And you don't know who I am," Zika shot back, stepping in. 20 years on the road. I've faced thieves, traffickers, every kind of scum. You don't scare me." Behind them, the Labrador whimpered. Zika glanced over his shoulder. The dog was trying to crawl toward them, even now, as if to protect the man who had saved him. "Look at that," Zika said, pointing. "After what you did to him, he still has love in his heart. More than you'll ever have." The man spat on the ground. "Sentimental crap. It's just a stray. Not a living being that feels pain, fear, or has any right to live." Zika leaned in, close to the man's face. "Something you seem to have forgotten a long time ago." "Oh, so now you're gonna lecture me, you, a worthless truck driver, a bum." Zika smiled, but there was no joy in it. "At least I don't torture animals for fun." The man swung at him, but Zika slipped aside with ease and caught his wrist. 20 years of hauling heavy loads had given him frightening strength. The man groaned in pain. "Hurts, doesn't it?" Zika whispered. "Now imagine how the dog felt." He shoved the man's arm away. The aggressor staggered back, rubbing his wrist. "This isn't over," he snarled. "Oh, it's not," Zika agreed, pulling his phone from his pocket. "Because I'm going to film everything and post it online, let the whole world see what kind of monster you are." The man's expression changed instantly, cynicism melting into panic. "No, don't do that, man. I've got a family, a job. You should have thought of that before." Zika hit record, pointing the camera first at the man, then at the injured dog. "This is Zika, truck driver. It's 3 in the morning on the BR-16, and I just caught this monster dragging a live dog along the asphalt." "Stop it!" The man tried to cover his face. "No. Everyone's going to know who you are. Your name, where you live, where you work. Let's see who wants to be friends with a man who tortures animals." Desperation took over the aggressor. Okay, I'm sorry. It was just a moment of anger. I was drunk." "Drunk?" Zika stopped recording and stared at him. "So you were driving drunk and torturing an animal? Even better." Behind them, the Labrador tried to get up again. Zika pocketed the phone and ran to him. "Easy, boy. Don't try to stand." He stripped off his shirt, left in just his undershirt, and wrapped the trembling body carefully. The dog was in shock, but his eyes never left Zika's face. "You need a vet, now." The man stepped forward hesitantly. "Look, I'll pay for the vet, okay? We can forget this." Zika looked at him like he was an insect. "You think this is about money? Then what do you want?" Zika lifted the dog into his arms with extreme care. He weighed about 30 kilos, but in his condition felt like nothing. The Labrador rested his head against Zika's chest and closed his eyes. "I want you gone before I change my mind and hand you to the police." "And the dog?" "The dog's coming with me." Zika turned toward the truck. "And if I ever hear you've done this to another animal, I'll come find you myself, and there won't be any talking." The man started to protest, but something in Zika's eyes shut him up. Without another word, he went back to the Civic and drove off, leaving only blood stains on the asphalt as proof of what had happened. Zika carried the Labrador to the cab, settled him gently in the passenger seat, patting and covering the wounds with towels. "What am I going to call you, huh?" he murmured, stroking the dog's head. "You're a warrior. You fought to the end." The Labrador opened his eyes and looked at Zika. In that gaze was something the trucker recognized. Absolute gratitude. "All right, warrior. That's your name now." Zika started the engine and pulled back onto the road. This time, he wasn't alone. And for the first time in years, he felt he was headed the right way. The GPS on his phone pointed to the nearest 24-hour vet clinic, 47 kilometers. He floored it, ignoring the speed limits. Every second could mean the difference between life and death. Warrior lay on the seat, wrapped in Zika's shirt. His breathing was growing weaker, more erratic. From time to time, he opened his eyes to check that Zika was still there, as if making sure this wasn't a dream. "Hang in there, boy," Zika kept saying, his voice trembling. "We'll be there soon. You're going to be okay." But deep down, he wasn't sure. The injuries were severe. The amount of blood lost was terrifying. The hind legs were raw, and Zika suspected fractures. The truck tore through the night like a bullet. He disabled the speed limiter, something that could cost him his license if caught. But he didn't care. Nothing mattered except saving that dog. His mind kept replaying the scene on the asphalt, the bald man's coldness, the contempt in his voice when he called Warrior a useless mutt, the ease with which he decided to kill a living being over something as petty as 2 dead chickens. "How can people like that exist?" he muttered, gripping the wheel. Warrior moved his head as if trying to answer. Zika reached over and stroked his muzzle. It was cold. Too cold. No, you're not dying, you hear me? Not after everything you've been through." The rain had stopped, but the asphalt still gleamed under the lights. Zika overtook 3 cars in a risky maneuver, ignoring the angry horns. His only focus was getting there in time. "You know something, Warrior?" he said, keeping up a one-sided conversation to stop the dog from drifting off. "It's been a long time since I felt this need to save someone." How long? He tried to remember. 5 years, maybe 6. Since Marcia had left, taking the kids, his life had been nothing but road, cargo, freight, sleep, days repeating endlessly. "She said I was cold, that I didn't show feelings." He looked at Warrior. Maybe she was right. Maybe I forgot how to feel. But now, with that wounded dog beside him, something had awakened. An urgency, a purpose he hadn't felt in years. As if all the love he'd kept locked inside had suddenly found a way out. The GPS read 23 kilometers. Warrior whimpered softly. Zeka looked over and saw the animal had closed his eyes again. Panic surged through the trucker. "Hey, don't close your eyes, don't!" He shook the dog gently. "Stay awake with me. Talk to me." Warrior forced his eyes open. Zeka saw the pupils were dilated. A sign of shock. "That's it! Look at me! I'm not handsome, but hang in there." He tried to joke, but his voice cracked. The truth was, he was terrified. He couldn't lose Warrior. Not after everything they'd been through together in these 2 hours. 2 hours that felt like a lifetime. "You know you've changed my life, right?" He kept talking. "Before I found you, I was just a bitter guy driving a truck. Now I've got a reason." The speedometer read 110 kilometers per hour, far too fast for a wet road, but he didn't slow down. Warrior needed him. "You know what really got to me about that scene?" he asked. "It wasn't just the cruelty. It was the indifference. Like you didn't matter, like your life was worth nothing." Warrior's tail moved faintly, almost imperceptibly, but it filled Zeka with hope. "But it does matter. It matters a lot. You fought to the end. Even being dragged, even in pain, you didn't give up. That's courage, Warrior." 15 kilometers to go. Zeka grabbed his phone and called the veterinary clinic. A woman's voice answered. "Pat Life Clinic, good evening. I have an emergency. A badly injured dog. I'll be there in 15 minutes. "What kind of injury?" He was dragged along the asphalt. He's losing a lot of blood. His back legs are raw." Silence on the other end. Then, "My God, all right, Dr. Marcos is here. We'll prepare everything. How will you be paying?" "How will I?" Zeka almost shouted. "Lady, I'll pay with card, cash, check. I'll sell the truck if I have to. Just get everything ready to save this dog." All right, we'll be waiting." Zeka hung up and looked at Warrior. The dog stared back with those brown eyes full of trust, as if he knew he was in the right hands. "You hear that? The doctor's gonna save you. You're gonna be fine." But Warrior was getting weaker, his breathing more erratic. Zeka felt tears burn his eyes, something that hadn't happened in years. "Don't die, Warrior. Please don't die. I need you." The words came out before he could think. "I need you." When was the last time he'd said that to anyone? When was the last time he truly needed someone? 10 kilometers. Zeka pushed the truck harder, past the edge of safety. In the rearview mirror, he saw the first signs of dawn on the horizon. A new day was breaking. It had to be a sign of hope. "Look, Warrior, the sun's coming up. It's going to be a new day for you too. A day without pain, without fear." Warrior tried to lift his head, but couldn't. Zeka reached out again, offering his warmth, his presence. The dog pressed his muzzle into Zeka's palm and sighed. A sigh that sounded like gratitude. The lights of the veterinary clinic appeared like a beacon in the dark. Zeka pulled into the emergency bay and jumped from the truck before the engine had even stopped. 2 staff members were already waiting at the door with a stretcher. "Is this him?" asked a blonde technician, eyes wide at the sight of Warrior. "Yeah, please, do something." Zeka carried Warrior carefully to the stretcher. The dog could barely keep his eyes open, but when he realized he was being separated from Zeka, he tried to move. "Easy, boy. They're going to help you." Dr. Marcos, a veterinarian in his 50s, quickly examined the wounds as they rushed down the hallway. "How long was he being dragged?" "I don't know. By the time I saw, it had already been a while." 5, 10 minutes, maybe." "My God," the doctor shook his head. "How can anyone do something like this?" They entered the operating room. Zeka tried to follow, but was stopped by the technician. "Sorry, but you'll have to wait out here." "But he'll be fine. Dr. Marcos is the best." The door closed. Through the small window, Zeka saw a 3-person team working fast. Warrior lay on the table, unconscious, an oxygen mask over his face. IV fluids running, monitors beeping. Zika leaned against the corridor wall and, for the first time in years, cried. Cried for the cruelty he'd witnessed, for Warrior's courage, for his own life wasted in loneliness and bitterness. Tears of rage, of sorrow, but also of something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Mr. Zika, it was the receptionist. I need some details. Name, ID. Jose Carlos Oliveira. He answered automatically. CPF 123. Oh wait, about the payment. You already said you'd pay. Don't worry about that now. Zika filled out the forms mechanically, his attention fixed on the surgery room. Through the glass, he could see the vets working tirelessly. Warrior looked so small on that table. How long will it take? It depends. From what I saw, it could be a long surgery. Long? Zika checked the clock. 5:30. He should have been arriving in Fortaleza to unload. His boss would be furious about the delay. Might even fire him. And you know what? He didn't care. He sat down in an uncomfortable plastic chair and watched the clinic's activity. Other owners arriving with their pets, some anxious, some calm, all treating their animals like family. Family? Zika tried to remember the last time he'd felt part of one. Maybe with Marcia and the kids. But even then, there had always been a distance, like he was watching his own life from the outside. Mr. Jose, Dr. Marcos had come out of surgery, still wearing blood-stained gloves. Zika jumped to his feet. How is he? Stable. We managed to stop the main bleeding, but the doctor hesitated. The injuries are severe. Multiple fractures in the hind legs. Deep abdominal laceration. He's lost a lot of blood. But he's gonna live. The next 24 hours are critical. If he makes it through, he's got a chance. Zika felt his legs go weak. Can I see him? He's sedated, but yes, you can. The recovery room was quiet, the only sound coming from the monitors. Warrior lay on a heated bed, connected to several machines. Bandages covered almost his entire body, but he was breathing. Hey, Warrior, Zika whispered as he stepped closer. You made it. You got this far. He touched the dog's head gently. Warrior didn't move, but Zika could swear his breathing eased. I'm staying here. I'm not leaving. You hear me? Dr. Marcos approached. Are you related to the person who did this to him? No, I just saw it happening on the road. I couldn't walk away. The vet looked at Zika with respect. You saved his life. 5 more minutes and it would have been too late. Anyone would have done the same. You'd be surprised. A lot of people would have just driven past. Zika stayed silent. Was it true? Was he different from most people? Or had he simply found a part of himself he thought was gone? Doctor, how much is all this going to cost? Well, it's going to be expensive. Emergency surgery, medication, hospitalization, about 5,000 reais. 5,000, the equivalent of 2 hauls. Zika had 3,000 in savings. He'd have to go into debt. All right, do whatever it takes. Are you sure? That's a lot of money. Zika looked at Warrior, small and fragile in the bed. He thought of the pleading look the dog had given him on the asphalt, the absolute trust when he pressed his muzzle into his hand. Doctor, this dog trusts me. How could I let him down? Dr. Marcos smiled. You know something? In 25 years of practice, I've seen a lot, but people like you are rare. I'm nothing special. You saved the life of an animal you didn't even know. You're about to spend 5,000 you might not have, and you still say you're not special. Zika didn't answer. His focus was on Warrior. In the next few hours, he'd know if his decision had been the right one. For the first time in a long while, he prayed. He wasn't sure how. It had been years since he'd spoken to God, but he asked. He asked that this brave dog be given another chance. A chance to live, a chance to be happy, a chance to teach Zika how to feel again. 6 a.m., and Zika hadn't closed his eyes. Sitting in a chair beside Warrior's bed, he watched every flicker of the monitors, every breath the dog took. The clinic was waking up with the morning shift. Other vets arriving, staff starting their day. His phone rang. It was Tenino, the company dispatcher. Zika, where the hell are you? The client's calling here in a panic. Where's the load? Zika glanced at Warrior before answering. I had an emergency, Tenino. Emergency? What kind of emergency? A personal matter. Personal matter? Zika, you've got a contract. You can't just disappear with a truck full of medicine. Tenino's voice echoed down the quiet hallway. Zika stepped away from the room so as not to disturb Warrior. I know, but it was something that couldn't wait. Look, Mr. Raimundo's furious. He wants that load delivered by noon or he'll consider it a breach of contract. Breach of contract meant being fired, losing the only job he'd known for 20 years. Zika looked through the recovery room door. Warrior lay still, the machines tracking every heartbeat. "All right, Tenino, I'll take care of it." "Do it fast, man. You're already in deep." He hung up and returned to Warrior's side. Dr. Marcos came in to check the vitals. "How is he? His signs are stabilizing." "That's a good sign," the vet said, adjusting the IV. "But it's still early. His body's been through a lot." "Doctor, I need to step out for a few hours to deal with something for work, but I'll be back." "Of course. Leave a contact number. I'll call if anything changes." Zika hesitated. Leaving now felt like a betrayal. Warrior had trusted him. How could he walk away at a time like this? But if he lost his job, how would he pay for the treatment? He leaned over the bed and stroked Warrior's ear. "Hey boy, I have to go out for a bit, but I'll be back, I promise." Warrior didn't move, but Zika swore the monitor's beeps quickened, as if the dog sensed he was being left again. "No, that's not it. I'm never leaving you. I'm just going to take care of something, and then I'll be back to stay with you." He kissed the dog's forehead and left the clinic with a heavy heart. The drive to Fortaleza was torture. Every kilometer, Zeka thought about Warrior alone in the clinic. What if something happened while he was gone? What if the dog woke up and found no one there? His phone rang 3 times. Each time, Zeka answered on the first ring, thinking it was the clinic, but it was only Tenino pressing for delivery updates. He reached the destination at 11:30, half an hour before the deadline. The man receiving the load was visibly irritated. "What's this, Zeka? This medicine was supposed to arrive last night." "Sorry, Mr. Joao, I had an emergency." "Emergency, my ass? That's unprofessional." Zika swallowed his anger. He needed to finish quickly and get back to Warrior. He helped unload the boxes fast, even though it wasn't his job. When he was done, he grabbed his phone and called the clinic. "Pet Life, good morning." "Hi, this is Zika. I wanted to know how Warrior's doing. The dog you brought in?" "Let me check." Dr. Marcos says he woke up a little while ago, seemed restless, looking for someone. Zika's heart jumped. "Looking for someone?" "Yes." He kind of lifted his head and kept looking at the door, like he was expecting someone. "I'm coming right now. Tell him I'm on my way." "Tell him? You think he understands?" The receptionist laughed. "I think so. Just tell him, please." Zika hung up and ran for the truck. Warrior was awake. He'd been looking for him. That meant he was getting better, but also that he felt abandoned. The drive back was even more desperate than the trip there. Zika pushed the truck to the limit, cursing every slow car in his way. His phone rang again. "Tenino, Zika, Mr. Raimundo wants to talk to you. Get to the company now." "I can't, Tenino." "What do you mean you can't?" The man's furious. "Either you come now or it's over." Zika glanced at the clock. 1:30 p.m. If he went to the company, he wouldn't reach the clinic until late afternoon. "Tenino, I'll be honest with you. I found a dog, half dead on the road. I saved him, took him to the vet. He's in critical condition, barely hanging on." Silence on the other end. Then, "You're joking, right?" "No, I'm not. It's the truth." "Zika, you delayed a delivery for a mutt?" "Mutt." The same word the abuser had used. Zika felt the anger rise. "He's not a mutt. He's Warrior. And he's not just anything. He's my responsibility." "Man, you've lost it. It's just a dog." "It's not just a dog," Zika shouted. "It's a living being that almost died. That trusts me. I'm not abandoning him." "Zika, listen. Come to the company. We'll talk. Maybe we can work something out. There's no time. I need to get back to the clinic. If you don't come now, you're fired." Zika pulled the truck onto the shoulder. 20 years with the company, 20 years building a career. He'd lose it all for a dog he'd known less than 12 hours. He looked in the rearview mirror and saw his own reflection. Red eyes from exhaustion, unshaven, hair disheveled. He looked like a man who'd lost his mind. Maybe he had. But for the first time in years, he felt he was doing the right thing. "Tonino, tell Mr. Raimundo I'm sorry, but there are things more important than work. And tell him I'll drop the truck off at the company tomorrow with a full tank." He hung up and got back on the road. For the first time in his adult life, he was unemployed, without income, without prospects, and feeling more alive than ever. When Zika reached the clinic, it was 3:20 p.m. He ran through the corridors to the recovery room, and what he saw took his breath away. Warrior was awake. The dog lifted his head the moment Zika walked in. His brown eyes lit up with recognition, and, for the first time since they'd met, Warrior tried to wag his tail. "Hey, champ," Zika whispered, approaching slowly. "You're awake." Warrior tried to get up, but the bandages and his weakened state wouldn't allow it. Still, he stretched his neck toward Zika, as if to make sure he was real. Zika reached out. Warrior sniffed, then pressed his muzzle into Zika's palm, exactly as he had on the rain-soaked asphalt that night. Sorry I took so long. I had to take care of something. Dr. Marcos entered the room with a smile. He woke up 2 hours ago, and he's been looking at the door ever since. When he heard your footsteps in the hall, he lifted his head immediately. He recognized me? No doubt. Dogs have an incredible memory for the people who saved them. He knows you're his now. His, the word echoed in Zika's mind. How long had it been since someone was his? How long since he belonged to someone? How are the injuries? Better than we expected. The surgery went well. We managed to repair most of the damage to his legs. He'll have some scars, maybe a slight limp, but nothing that will stop him from living a normal life. A normal life. Warrior would have a normal life. Zika felt such a wave of relief he had to sit down. When can he be discharged? If all goes well, a week. But he'll need care, medication, dressing changes, physiotherapy. I'll take care of him. Do you have experience with dogs? No, but I'll learn. It's a big responsibility, especially for an animal that's been through trauma. He'll need a lot of love. Patience. Doctor, Zika cut in. This dog saved me as much as I saved him. I'll give him everything he needs. Warrior had closed his eyes, but kept his head resting in Zika's hand. His breathing was calm, for the first time since they'd met. Can I stay with him today? Of course. Just don't feed him yet. His stomach's still sensitive. Zika pulled a chair close to the bed and settled in. Warrior opened his eyes and looked at him with an expression Zika had never seen in any animal. Pure love. You know something, Warrior? I lost my job today. The dog tilted his head as if listening. 20 years working for the same company, and I chose to stay with you instead of going to a meeting. Zika chuckled softly. My ex-wife always said I didn't know how to set priorities. I think today she'd change her mind. Warrior's tail moved faintly. You know what's funny? I'm unemployed. I'm going to spend a fortune on your treatment. I have no idea how I'll support you, and I feel better than I have in years. Zika's phone rang. An unknown number. Hello, is this Jose Carlos? This is Detective Martins from the Carcaya precinct. I've received a report of animal abuse. Your name came up as a witness. Zika's heart sped up. A report? A man named Antonio Ferreira claims he was assaulted and threatened by a truck driver who stole his dog. That bastard had the nerve to file a complaint? Can you come in to give a statement? Detective, I have everything on video. The dog being dragged, the injuries. Do you want me to come now? If you'd like, I can send the video via WhatsApp right now and bring the vet's report tomorrow. Perfect. From what you've told me, the situation might turn in your favor. After hanging up, Zika looked at Warrior. You hear that? The monster who did this to you is going to pay. Warrior seemed to understand. His eyes shone with surprising intelligence. You know you've changed my life, right? Zika went on. Before I found you, I was just existing. Wake up, work, sleep. I didn't feel anything, didn't care about anything. He stroked Warrior's uninjured ear. Now I have something to fight for, someone who needs me. Do you know how long it's been since anyone needed me? Warrior moved his front paw and touched Zika's hand. A small gesture, but one that meant the world to the truck driver. Marcia always said I was selfish, that I only thought about myself. Maybe she was right. But with you it's different. Your happiness is more important than mine. The sun was beginning to set outside. Nurses came and went, checking on other hospitalized animals, the normal routine of a veterinary clinic. But for Zika, that room was the center of the universe. You know what we're going to do when you get out of here? He asked. We're going to find a place just for us, a little house with a yard. You'll be able to run, play. Warrior watched him with complete attention, as if he understood every word. And I'm going to teach you that not everyone is like that monster, that there are good people in the world, people who will love you the way you deserve. Dr. Marcos appeared in the doorway. How is he? Much better, more alert than I imagined. Dogs that have been through trauma sometimes become more attached to their rescuer. It's a very special bond. Zika looked at Warrior, who hadn't taken his eyes off him for a second. Doctor, can I sleep here tonight? Well, it's not protocol. Please. He's been through so much. I don't want him to feel abandoned again. Dr. Marcos studied the scene, man and dog looking at each other with mutual love. "All right, but just for tonight. Thank you." When they were alone again, Zika settled more comfortably into the chair. Warrior sighed and closed his eyes, keeping his paw resting on his savior's hand. For the first time in years, Zika fell asleep with a smile on his face. A week later, Warrior was discharged. His wounds were healing well, and although he still limped on his left hind leg, the vet assured it was temporary. Zika had spent the last few days putting his life in order. He sold his car and some belongings to pay for the treatment, rented a small apartment with a yard in Maracanal near the clinic, and bought everything a dog could need: bed, food bowl, toys, leash. Here we are, Warrior, home. The apartment was simple: 2 bedrooms, a small living room, an open kitchen, but the yard was spacious, with grass and a mango tree that cast shade. Warrior explored every corner with curiosity, sniffing everything, marking his territory. When he reached the yard, he stopped and looked at Zika, as if to ask, "All this is ours?" "It's ours, yes. Your home." For the first time since the rescue, Warrior ran, still limping, but running in circles around the yard, tongue-lolling with joy. Zika laughed until tears streamed down his face. "That's it. Run, boy. You're free." That night, while making dinner, something simple, pasta with eggs, Zika felt Warrior always close by. The dog never strayed more than 2 meters from him, as if afraid his rescuer might vanish. "Relax, Warrior. I'm not going anywhere." But he knew it would take time. Dr. Marcos had warned him about possible psychological trauma. Abused dogs often develop separation anxiety, fear of abandonment. The phone rang. It was Tonino. "Zika, man, Mr. Raimundo changed his mind. He wants you back." "Changed his mind?" "He saw the video of the dog online. It went viral, man. Over 1 million views, everyone talking about you." Zika frowned. "What video?" "The one you filmed of the guy dragging the dog. Someone leaked it. Now that bastard's being torn apart online. Lost his job. His wife left him." "And what does that have to do with me?" Coming back to work. "Mr. Raimundo wants to ride the good publicity, company that employs the animal hero, that kind of thing." Zika looked at Warrior, sleeping on the living room rug. "I don't want to go back to Nino." "What do you mean you don't want to? It's your job of 20 years? "Exactly. 20 years doing the same thing on autopilot. Now I have something more important." "Zika, you can't make a living just taking care of a dog." "I can try." The truth was, Zika had a plan. In recent days, several people had reached out offering donations for Warrior's treatment. Some companies wanted to sponsor his story. A publisher had even suggested a book. "Tonino, thanks for calling, but my answer is no." He hung up and sat on the floor beside Warrior. The dog opened his eyes and laid his head in Zeka's lap. "You know something? For the first time in my life, I know exactly what I want to do." Warrior wagged his tail. "I want to help other animals like you. Set up a shelter, do rescues. I don't know how yet, but I'll figure it out." In the days that followed, Zika began researching animal protection. He discovered NGOs, rescue groups, and protection laws. He reached out to other rescuers. He volunteered. The first time he took Warrior to visit a shelter, he was shocked. Dozens of abandoned, injured, traumatized dogs. Stories like Warrior's repeating endlessly. "Is it like this everywhere?" he asked the shelter's owner, Doña Maria, a 60-year-old woman who had dedicated her life to animals. "Worse, more arrive every day and resources are always scarce." Zika watched Warrior playing with other dogs in the shelter's yard. In just a week, his dog had transformed. The haunted look replaced by joy, fear replaced by trust. "Doña Maria, I want to really help, with donations. I don't just want to work here, I want to be part of this." She studied him carefully. "Do you have experience?" "I don't have experience, but I have motivation and time. We don't pay a salary." "I don't need a salary, I need a purpose." Doña Maria smiled. "When can you start?" "Tomorrow." That night, Zika and Warrior walked through the neighborhood. It was striking how people reacted to seeing the dog. Children came to pet him. Adults asked about his story. The rescue video had truly gone viral. "You've become a celebrity, Warrior." But what stood out most wasn't the fame. It was Zika's transformation. Neighbors commented on how much happier he seemed, lighter, as if he'd found his place in the world. Back at the apartment, while Warrior slept in his new bed, Zika reflected on everything that had changed. 3 weeks ago, he had been just a lonely truck driver. Now he was an animal protector, a shelter volunteer, and, most importantly, a father. Father to a brave Labrador who had taught him the true meaning of unconditional love. He picked up the phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in months. "Marcia, it's Zika." "Zika, wow, what a surprise. How are you?" "Good, really good. I wanted to tell you something." He told her the whole story. The rescue, the decision to quit his job, the new life with Warrior. Marcia listened in silence. "You've changed," she said at last. "I have. Your voice sounds different, more alive." "Yeah, I think I've finally figured out who I am." "I'm happy for you, Zika. Truly." When he hung up, Warrior was awake, watching him from the bed. "Hey boy, can't sleep?" Warrior got up and lay down at Zika's feet. "Thank you," Zika whispered, stroking the dog's head. "Thank you for saving me." Warrior sighed and closed his eyes. For the first time since they met, both slept through the night without nightmares. 6 months later, the San Francisco shelter had been transformed. With Zika's help and the popularity of Warrior's story, they renovated the facilities, built new kennels, and launched a responsible adoption program. Zika had discovered a natural gift for working with traumatized animals. His endless patience and personal experience with emotional pain created a special bond with the most difficult cases. "Look who's here," said Donna Maria as Zeka arrived for another day of work. On his desk, dozens of letters, requests for help from across Brazil. People who had seen the video wanted to donate, adopt, or share their own rescue stories. "More come in every day," she added. "I think you need to think bigger, Zika." "Think bigger." Zika looked out at the shelter's yard. Warrior was playing with newly arrived dogs, helping the shy ones socialize. It was incredible how the dog had become a kind of canine therapist. "Donna Maria, I have an idea." "Tell me." "What if we did a TV show?" "Nothing sensational, something educational. Show how to care for animals properly, how to spot abuse, share stories of recovery." "You on TV?" She laughed. "A truck driver turned presenter? Why not? Who better than someone who's lived it?" That afternoon, Zika called a production company that had reached out weeks earlier. The idea excited them immediately. "Four-legged warriors," the producer suggested. A weekly half-hour show featuring real rescues, care tips, and inspiring stories. And Warrior would be part of it, of course, the co-host. Zika looked at his companion lying in the sun in the yard. "What do you think, buddy? Want to be a star?" Warrior wagged his tail as if to say yes. 3 months later, the pilot episode aired. The response was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Emails poured in from across the country. Similar stories, requests for help, offers of support. But the moment that moved Zika most came from a phone call. "Dad?" It was Juliana, his youngest daughter, 16, who had barely spoken to him since the divorce. "Ju, how are you, sweetheart?" "I saw your show. I cried the whole time." Zika felt his throat tighten. "I cried because I was proud, Dad. I've never seen you so real." "Juliana, I want you to meet Warrior. Can you come this weekend?" "Of course. I'd love to." On Saturday, Juliana arrived with her mother. Marcia was visibly curious to see the changes she'd heard in her ex-husband's voice. "Wow," was Juliana's first word upon seeing Warrior. "He's beautiful." Warrior, always sociable, went straight to the girl. Within minutes, they were playing in the yard like old friends. "Is he always this friendly?" Marcia asked. "Only with people who have good hearts," Zeka replied. "He knows how to spot special souls." Marcia studied her ex-husband. "You really are different." "Different how? More human." That afternoon, they visited the shelter. Juliana was enchanted by her father's work. Marcia, visibly moved, insisted on making a generous donation. "Dad, can I volunteer during the holidays?" Juliana asked. "You can, but it's hard work." "I don't care. I want to help." After they left, Zika sat in the yard with Warrior. The dog came over and rested his head in Zika's lap, just like he did every night. "You know something?" Zika said, looking up at the stars. "That night, when I saw you being dragged, I thought I was saving you, but now I know the truth." Warrior looked up at him. "You saved me. You showed me there was still goodness in me. You proved it's never too late to start over." The phone rang. It was Dr. Marcos. "Zika, I just saw your show. Fantastic." "Thanks, doctor. But I'm calling for another reason." We've got a serious case here. A German Shepherd puppy was beaten by its owner. He's badly injured. But more than that, he's terrified. Won't let anyone near him. I'm on my way. Zika, it's just like Warrior's case, maybe worse. Zika looked at his companion. We're going, right, Warrior? There's another warrior who needs us. At the clinic, the puppy was curled up in the back of the cage, trembling. When strangers approached, he growled and shrank even further. Easy, boy, Zika said softly, crouching down. No one's going to hurt you. Warrior approached the cage, sniffed the air, and lay down in front of the door, not trying to enter, just offering quiet company. The puppy stopped growling. His eyes locked onto Warrior's, recognizing perhaps a kindred soul, someone who had known the same pain. Slowly, very slowly, the puppy crept toward the bars. Warrior stayed still, radiating calm. Amazing, murmured Dr. Marcos. It's like they understand each other. They do, said Zika. Pain recognizes pain, but it also recognizes healing. 2 hours later, they managed to get the puppy out of the cage. He accepted Zika's arms, but never took his eyes off Warrior. Welcome to the family, hero, Zika said, naming the newest member. In the car, heading home, Zika reflected on the journey, from lonely truck driver to animal protector, from closed-off man to TV host, from absent father to present one. All because one rainy night, on a dark road, he chose not to drive past. Thank you, he whispered to Warrior, who slept in the back seat with Hero curled up beside him. Thank you for showing me that saving someone is the best way to save yourself. Warrior opened one eye, wagged his tail once, and went back to sleep. As if to say, you're welcome, this is just the beginning. And it truly was, because now Zika knew his mission in life. Every animal rescued, every story shared, every person inspired to make a difference. The road was still there, but now, instead of escaping life, Zika traveled it saving lives, and Warrior, his loyal co-pilot, was with him every mile of the way. A journey born in pain and transformed into purpose, a path that began in darkness and bloomed into light. A journey that proved that sometimes, to find your true destiny, all you need is the courage to stop and help someone who needs it. Thank you for coming this far, but don't go just yet. On the screen beside you is another powerful story. Click, subscribe to the channel, and share. I'll see you there.